We'd like to welcome also Emergency Management Director Mike Sprayberry, who's been working for the last several days in anticipation of this hurricane. We also have Commissioner Baker from Department of Public Safety, Highway Patrol Colonel Bill Gray, and Adjutant General Greg Lusk is with us. And also Tony Tata, our Secretary of Transportation, just sent me a report which I'll be reading. He is actually in Wilmington at this time as we speak, and I just got off the phone with him and got the latest update from him. Our continued goals are, first of all, the health and safety of all our citizens and also the many thousands of tourists who are visiting our state during the 4th of July weekend. In addition, we're really focusing right now on recovery once this storm hopefully goes through our state as quick as possible. Again, I want to warn when we review past storms, whether it be hurricanes like this or ice storms in North Carolina, most injuries and most casualties occur right before the storm arrives or right after. Notice. We also want to warn our citizens now that sunset has occurred, that the darkness causes much more dangers where you will not see potential power lines and flooding situations. So at this point in time, we strongly encourage that you stay inside and wait for this storm to leave for a long period. Stay inside during darkness. One of our major issues is going to be in the morning. We will not know how much serious damage we have until daylight, and it's going to even take time to do a thorough review of especially the Outer Banks early in the morning because of potential winds, which will make it very difficult for helicopters and other types of aircraft to fly in the area. And we're, of course, not going to put anyone in danger to do the initial review, so we're going to have to make sure it's safe skies so we can check out the safety of any area that we know of serious damage. But so we really might not know how extensive the damage might be until mid-morning or even later based upon what the conditions might be. I also want to thank the team effort so far during the day. We've had very good conversations with FEMA out of D.C. They've been a great partner. The American Red Cross, we had a very good conference phone call at 6 o'clock today. We've had very good conversations with the utilities that are very well placed along the coast to deal with any power outages. We're also working very closely with each of our local county emergency operations in each of the counties along the coast and even further inland now that the coast is veer westward. I also want to thank our neighboring states who have made personal phone calls to me. I know Governor Nikki Haley has personally called me to offer assistance with any resources they might have, and we've had directors from Virginia and Tennessee and several other states who have called to offer assistance, and we'd like to thank them for their teamwork. The potential track of Hurricane Arthur has moved closer to our coast, which we did not expect this western movement 4 or 5 hours ago. So we're most concerned now about flooding inland and also storm surges in our sounds and our rivers further inland, which we've had to experience in the past here in North Carolina. So most people who have been concerned have been directly on the coast. Now we have concerns about people inland who may be impacted by potential flooding and rivers going over their banks. We also anticipate along the coast and Outer Banks minor coastal flooding, moderate storm surge, dangerous rip currents, heavy surf, and moderate beach erosion, which is good news for the future. We have 11 counties that have declared a state of emergency. We have 14 shelters opened at this point in time. As of 7 p.m., we've actually gotten fairly good news that at 7 p.m., we've only had 6,500 customers reported to be without power. We anticipate that to go up as the hurricane moves further north up the coast. In fact, Tony Tata looked out his window of the hotel at Wrightsville Beach, and the power is still on at Wrightsville Beach, and the storm seems to be moving out there. So that's very, very good news for the Wrightsville Beach area and south of Wrightsville Beach. Again, the state's emergency response team is ready to help in any way we can. Our State Department of Transportation is already on the ground. The latest report from them, from Tony Tata, who just gave me this report from New Hanover County, says the following. Based upon the current forecast, we expect Hurricane Arthur will impact NC-12 from south of the Bonner Bridge down to Ocracoke Island. Any of you in North Carolina know that Highway 12 is about 100 yards wide between the two inland and the ocean itself, and most likely we're going to have water over that road within a very short period of time. Of course, the Bonner Bridge is currently closed at this point in time, and we are going to be hopefully reopening that sometime tomorrow, and I'll explain that in just a few minutes because we have to do some checking on that. We are anticipating sustained winds of 100 miles per hour coupled with a storm surge on the ocean and sound sides of that highway, which really could cause some serious damage and flooding. I've been there myself many times, and that's what we anticipate. For that reason, CDOT, the North Carolina Department of Transportation, have 25 pieces of heavy equipment stationed already along NC-12 in places like Buxton and also Ocracoke. We also have crews ready to board the first ferry running to Ocracoke tomorrow to begin assessing any damage and to start cleanup efforts. So maybe the best way we're going to get to that island is through the ferry first thing in the morning. NCDOT crews are also in other parts of the state, and they're on standby to go immediately to the Outer Banks or other parts of the state that are impacted by this hurricane. The engineers are also paying very close attention to Bonner Bridge. It's the only highway connection to Hatteras Island, and before we open that back up, CDOT needs to understand the need to open the bridge needs to be as quickly as possible to help those, but before that can happen, crews must first make sure it's safe for drivers. An underwater sonar scan will take place as soon as the winds and the water calm down. The results will determine if the bridge is safe to open. We will not take risk. We're going to make sure the bridge is safe. Our dive team is on standby should they be needed to further check to verify what the sonar what information that gives us in the morning. The CDOT Ferry Division has worked very hard over the past 2 days to help evacuate people from Hatteras and Ocracoke Islands. With 6 boats working around the clock, we have moved over 4,300 residents and visitors off Ocracoke, which I really want to compliment that being a team effort. We have shut down that ferry service as of now for the night, and we have moved those ferries to safe harbor. The ferry service will resume once conditions improve and any evacuation orders are lifted. Remember, we need the winds below gale force, that's below 35 to 45 miles per hour, to operate the ferries safely. So it could be a while before we get the ferries operating tomorrow. CDOT has tested the emergency ferry route from Stumpy Point, and it is ready to go tomorrow if needed. These crews have done a great job, and I want to again thank each one of them, and Tony Tate has done a great job in preparing this. I also want to thank the National Guard and our whole Guard effort. We have 100 soldiers on standby as our troops with the State Highway Patrol, and they are ready to be deployed if needed. Again, our primary goal is public safety, and we ask the folks who have had to deal with this in the eastern part of the state many times, especially along the coast and the Outer Banks, to please use caution, be safe, listen to media outlets, weather reports, and your local officials for updates in your area. Please have your emergency supply kits ready. If you haven't got it now, it's probably too late, but be sure you can gain access to needed flashlights in anticipation of your power going out. Please be safe both inside your home and stay inside your home. I've mentioned before earlier, if you still have the opportunity to reference Ready NC website and also download your smartphone with a Ready NC application, and that will tell you the most up-to-date information possible. That will be very beneficial, especially if your power does go out. Also, for many of the tourists that are wanting to come still to North Carolina to enjoy our beautiful beaches and our beautiful state, we do have a telephone number for you to call to get the latest information on our hotels along the coast. Live operators will offer the latest information. It's 24 hours through the next several days. You can call 1-800-VISIT-NC, and they'll give you the latest information on any destination that you may be wanting to come to in the next day or two. And we do want you to come back to North Carolina. And already, again, we're getting some very good feedback from the southern part of the coast, Wrightsville Beach south, and that's very good news. With that, I'm going to ask Mike Sprayberry to give the latest update on some other items regarding our emergency network, and then we'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have. I would also like to thank the media, both the national media and our local media, for giving up-to-date information. I still want to encourage them to be careful, too, as they stand in and around water, especially, or in high winds. Be careful of the debris. I said earlier, don't pull a Dan Rather on me. We all know what high winds do, and we know water can be very dangerous. Please stay away from the water. And I was very saddened to see, and I just heard from Tony, he saw some surfers out on the coast just an hour and a half ago, and they were taking a beating. And in fact, he said it looked like one of them got hurt, and we just cannot afford to have that. And now that nightfall's here, I hope no one is foolish enough to go out during the dark hours. So with that, Mike, why don't you give them the latest update?
Thank you, sir. The State EOC, the State Emergency Operations Center, remains activated with several state emergency response team partners, as well as our FEMA partners and our volunteer agencies. Our warehouse located in Tarboro remains activated, as does our Regional Coordination Center East, located in Kinston, North Carolina. That location is our operational arm for the state EOC that provides resources to the counties who request them in the eastern part of the state. Throughout the day, we've continued to strengthen our position to respond and recover to the hurricane as it passes through North Carolina. What we've done is we've positioned swift water rescue teams throughout eastern North Carolina, as well as a urban search and rescue team. We have 3 other urban search and rescue teams that are on standby should we need them. As the governor mentioned, we have over 100 National Guardsmen ready to respond, to do anything from providing supplies, to running a warehouse for us, to performing search and rescue missions. We've also brought on board technicians, rescue technicians, and aviators, put them in the aviation facilities so that if we have to do helo aquatic rescue tomorrow, we'll be able to match them up with their aviation platforms quickly, push them out the door, and get them downrange to where the rescue operations will be performed. We also have located a place to put mass feeding kitchens, and so if we need to start executing mass feeding operations, we think that we can have that operational by noon on Saturday, so that if we need to do that, we can do that as well. We have also been responding for requests from the counties for food, water, radios, and things like that. I think at this point we've had about 25 resource requests. We continue to fill them as we get those requests. We also are working and have identified a medical strike team with doctors, PAs, and nurses, and other urban search and rescue teams if we need to deploy those. We also have got us a communication package that can be loaded up into a Black Hawk helicopter, put over into the Outer Banks should they lose communications. We also have been coordinating with our locals and the FEMA partners so that we can rapidly get out into the field and do damage assessments once the storm passes. So we'll be ready to do that probably during the weekend or maybe a little bit after. So as I said, we're continuing to strengthen our position on the ground for response and recovery with the complete state emergency response team. We have to be ready to respond swiftly and decisively. Right now is when it really begins, and it'll go through the night. And at first light, we'll be able to make an assessment on how we need to respond, where we need to place our resources. I feel pretty confident that we have got our resources in the right places, just out of the zone where they won't be hurt, but in a place to where they can quickly surge into and assist our counties as needed. Sir?
Thank you. The good news is this, is that the storm on the southern part of our coast thankfully occurred during low tide, and we aren't seeing a lot of damage at this point in time, and of course it happened primarily during daylight. The bad news right now is we're going to darkness, and we've just been notified that this is now a Category 2 hurricane, which we want to warn our citizens up the coast and our thousands of tourists who may be dealing with this for the first time that this is a serious storm. And with the darkness coming and with the high tide also coming, as this storm moves to the north, the danger does increase. This is not just on the outer banks, but also on the sound side, because the winds will be hitting on both sides, which really cause us some major flooding issues possibly. So we just want to encourage you to please be safe and be smart and take care of each other during this storm, and then we'll all get to enjoy the wonderful 4th of July weekend with our families. With that, we'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have. See no questions. Thank you all very much for your cooperation. I especially want to thank our Guard and our Highway Patrol. Appreciate it. We've got a good deployment out in that area. Appreciate it very much. God bless each one of you.